So many. Where do we start?
Indians are all smelly. It's a horrible one.
Smell like coconut oil all the time.
Smell the particular smell, you know who were there before.
Very rowdy.
Wife beaters.
All money grabbing. They cheat your money.
Cunning.
Fat.
Alcoholic. That's the best.
Malays are known to be
Lazy.
late.
Don't pay you back if they borrow money from you.
They don't work as hard.
Lazy.
We like one corner.
Be like one corner.
Yeah, I ride the motorbike and I play the guitar.
The park bench can support family better than a Malay man.
Yeah, I know it's actually interesting. I don't actually know that many Chinese stereotypes.
The Chinese, greedy, arrogant, money face.
Stingy.
How to grab money.
Yeah, it's all to do with money lah, and how well they make it. To pick within the tree, I'd rather have the Chinese stereotypes, right? Because I mean, you're an asshole, but you make money.
Theorists have all sorts of ideas about how we pick up ideology, right? So, I mean, you pick it up from school. I think school is one of the worst places. You learn them from your family. I know I did. And basically, one generation passes its racism on to another. And then, of course, to some extent, you learn it on the street. You're pressed back to back with different people on the train every day. You learn to pick up different ways of defending yourself. Some of it is irony. Some of it is humor. Some of it is just plain out insensitivity. But it's all racist.
The stereotypes are not new. If you read, for example, the work of the late Professor Syed Hussein Alatas, The Myth of the Lazy Native, it is a form of ideology that is being pushed by the British colonial government as an attempt to justify their rule over the indigenous population. Yeah? Our founding fathers has somehow borrowed many aspects of the British system, and that includes the separation of the races to keep them in neat categories for easier management and control. The result is what we observed, the CIMO model. And like it or not, the whole process has led to a more racialized society in Singapore, despite the noble attempt to try to bring the races together. But the result has been otherwise.
In Singapore, the government professes to not have institutional racism, right? Which is basically that when the government employs somebody, it will not look at somebody's race or religion or whatever, right? So I think that that is very much taken care of, right? But then there are sort of structures which work against certain races, right? So for example, the fact that if you are a minority in a school, right, and the teacher is from the majority race also, how does that in a way prevent you from enjoying the opportunities or the cultural capital that accrue to the people in the majority race? So structures and ways of doing things in institutions, even though the institution is professedly non-discriminatory, might lead to discrimination.
The problem with this national data also, that is categorized on racial lines, once it affects the dominant or the majority again, it is not seen in racial terms. Let's take myopia for instance. Data shows that it's much more common amongst the Chinese than other races. What you do is you form a national council for prevention of myopia. It becomes a national issue, right? Once it's got to do with the majority race, but that's never the privilege of the minority. We are subjected to a lot of gazing, we are subjected to a lot of scrutiny, and that is a rather stressful situation.
Some of it is systematic and deliberate, like for example, SAF policies, which restrict the entry of Malay personnel into, say, certain sort of like what they call sensitive units.
I was the first Malay RT officer for a couple of years, I think for like a few decades or something. And everybody labeled me as, oh, you're the Malay RT officer. And like, oh, you're that new guy, you're the Malay officer. And I'm like, dude, I am an officer. In BMT, I really wanted to go into commandos. That was before I knew about the fact that there were no Malays in commandos. Then when I went through it, I'm like, oh, I can't. Why not? Then they say it's national security. I'm like, seriously? That's a whole load of crap. I am proud to be a Singaporean, but don't put my race into this issue.
Job advertisements that specifically ask for those with a competence in, let's say, Mandarin. Yeah. I have a Malay friend calls and it says, okay, I speak Mandarin, whatever, when can I come? And then it turns up for the interview and then they're like, oh, but you're Malay. And then the friend says, oh, but I do speak Mandarin. Oh, we are looking for, Chinese person speaking Mandarin. Between you and me, I'd rather not have Malay or Indian employees, between you and me. If you are concerned about values like equality and parity and fair treatment, things that are sort of enshrined in the Constitution, and that you believe are sort of values that every human being should uphold, then I think, racism is one of the ills that, should be targeted and redressed.
I really do feel that racism is just another form of disliking other people. You say about there's everyday racism, yes, there is. But I want to suggest whether is it bad or not. Is it in the state that where it needs to be ratified? No.
So, just because we don't have sort of like overt conflicts between different ethnic communities, I think doesn't mean that there are very subtle and insidious forms of racism that actually, played out in daily life.
It's real, it's happening. I will acknowledge it. But sometimes I think people just make a big deal out of it it's making a mountain out of a molehill.
In Singapore, it's okay to make racially derogatory comments, and people don't really chide you for it. It's acceptable.
In a public assembly in school, the principal actually said this. Are y'all sure you want an Indian food stall in the canteen? Because Indian food is very unhealthy, It was so wrong, It was just factually wrong. She was basically taking her opinion and telling that to a group of impressionable teenagers. I'm always looking at, I want to be more westernized, I want to be more Chinese, I want to know how to speak Chinese. I prevent myself from dressing in a certain way. I had a piercing, I took it out because I didn't want to be Indian. Yeah. These small things are actually us, but we have to kind of like suppress it so that people don't talk about it. Sometimes I think I was even in denial that I wasn't Indian for a while. Yeah.
It's not fair, but honestly to me, it just can't be helped. You can try ways to mitigate it. Just can't be helped. Just deal with it. Yeah, just deal with it. Yeah.
tried to run game on a nigga. Who's buck wild with the trigger? Shame on a nigga who tried to run game on a nigga. Who's bucks are
Some of them know like that it hurts, but they don't care. Yeah. So, because they think it's funny, you see, or they think it doesn't matter. Yeah. Or they're just fuckers.